You know, in our totally connected world, you could be working with people from a dozen different countries, all before you've even had your first coffee. But what happens when the leadership skills that have always worked for you suddenly don't? Or even worse, they actually cause offense. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
It's a really common problem, and it can be so frustrating. You've got a clear vision, you know what you're doing, but when you step into a new cultural setting, your message just gets lost. And look, this isn't about being about leader, it's about a missing skill. Let me show you a classic example of this in action. So picture this, an American leader who really values being direct and clear might give directions face to face. But a Japanese leader might prefer sending a written memo because they value having that documentation and giving people time to reflect. Now, neither approach is wrong, right? But to each other, the American style can feel kind of abrupt, while the Japanese style might feel really impersonal. It's a simple disconnect, but it can have some pretty big consequences. And this goes way, way beyond just memos or handshakes. The very idea of what makes a strong leader can change dramatically from one place to another. What looks like being decisive in one culture can easily come across as arrogant in another. And that consensus-building approach that's so valued in one context, well, elsewhere it might just look like you can't make a decision. So how in the world are you supposed to navigate all this? Well, there's actually a specific skill designed for exactly these kinds of situations. It's called cultural intelligence. At its core, cultural intelligence is really just your ability to operate effectively no matter the cultural setting. And this isn't about memorizing every single custom for every country on Earth. I mean, who could do that? It's about developing the awareness and the flexibility to adopt on the fly. And just like we have IQ for smarts and EQ for emotional awareness, we have CQ for cultural intelligence. You can really think of it as that essential third pillar for any kind of modern leadership. Okay, so what does this CQ thing actually look like when you put it into practice? The absolute best way to understand it is to break it down into three simple, super memorable parts: the head, the body, and the heart. It's a whole system that works together. First, you've got the head. That's the thinking part, learning and strategizing. Then comes the body. That's the physical side of things, where you take that knowledge and put it into action by adapting your behavior. And finally, you have the heart. That's your motivation, the drive that gives you the confidence to jump in even when you're way outside your comfort zone. And let's be clear about the head component. This is not a trivia contest. It's not about memorizing facts like when you're supposed to bow or shake hands. No, it's about developing learning strategies to understand the deeper values that make people act the way they do. It's about constantly asking yourself why. Now, developing your CQ isn't just some interesting academic exercise. It pays off with some really tangible, powerful benefits for anyone who works in a diverse environment. And that could mean across the globe or even just across the office. When you've got a high CQ, you can just work more effectively with pretty much anyone. You'll sidestep those awkward and sometimes really costly cultural missteps. But I think more importantly, you start to actually get the underlying values that drive people's behavior. You stop making assumptions and you start making really informed observations. At the end of the day, CQ is not about changing who you are. It's about building a bridge of understanding so you can connect and work together more effectively with people, wherever they are. It really is the key that unlocks true global teamwork. So as we wrap things up here, let's turn the focus back on you for a second. How would you rate your own cultural intelligence right now? And maybe more importantly, what's one thing you could do to improve it? So what's one small, practical step you can take? Seriously. Maybe it's just learning about a holiday that a colleague is celebrating. Or maybe it's just paying closer attention to the different communication styles in your next meeting with an international team. The point is just to start. Because in the world we live in, the ability to adapt and connect across cultures isn't just a soft skill anymore. It's a superpower.